A good first step for the LA Kings in this final stretch of games, but it's just a first step. We'll talk about that and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We would love for you to leave us a positive comment on Apple Podcasts if you're a fan of the show. And we are on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 17 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. The Kings were back home, starting their stretch run of games before the playoffs get underway, and it was the first of back-to-back games on back-to-back nights for the Kings as they were hosting the Seattle Kraken, looking to snap a 3-game losing skid. Now, we didn't know exactly what the lineup was going to look like going into the game because of the injury status to center Phillip Danault. Well, we found out that Danault, in fact, would not play in this game. He would miss his third straight game with an upper body injury. The Kings would return to that 11-7 setup of 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. Akil Thomas was not back in the lineup. Arthur Kaliyev was, along with Alex Laferriere on the third line. Defenseman Jacob Morar was in the lineup as the extra defenseman. So if you missed the game, we'll give you a quick recap. And the Kings scored the only goal of the first period when Adrian Kempe scored on a power play, his 24th of the season. Victor Arvidsson and Kevin Fiala had the assists, and the Kings had a 1-0 lead after one. And if you've been paying attention, the Kings usually do well and have success when they can get that first goal of the game. Second period, the Kings extend their lead to 2-0. Trevor Moore gets his team leading 27th goal of the season. He had assists from Matt Roy and Pierre Dubois on that goal. Moore would then make it 3-0 Kings with his second of the game, 28th of the season. Pierre Dubois and Victor Arvidsson with the assists, and the Kings appeared to be in control, up 3-0 in the third. When things got a little interesting, the Kraken would get a double minor power play, so 4 minutes of power play time after a difficult high-sticking call on Blake Lizotte. Seattle would score to make it 3-1 on the first of the 2-minute minors. They would not score on the second, but it was 4-1 at that point. And then you thought, okay, it's a 3-goal game, but they still have power play time. If they score on that second power play, then things really get interesting. But then the Kings would score to make it 4-1. Kevin Fiala, his 26th of the season. Blake Lizotte with the lone assist, a great defensive play for him on that one. Kraken would respond, though, less than a minute later to make it 4-2. However, Trevor Moore would ice the game, scoring on a breakaway for the hat trick, his 29th of the season. Pierre Dubois with the assist, and the Kings would walk away with a 5-2 victory. As for the game stats in this one, you had the Kings winning at 5-2. Shots on goal favored LA 27-25. Power play, the Kings were 1 for 3, while Seattle was 1 for 4. Faceoffs favored Seattle 25-23. Block shots favored the Kings 17-14, and hits favored LA 40-33. So as we've been doing of late, one word to describe the Kings' result, 5-2 victory over the Kraken, I would say that one word is encouraging. Now, I know people will say it's the Kraken. This is what the Kings are supposed to do, and that's not untrue. I agree with that, but they still have to go out and do it. And the Kings can control who's on the schedule the rest of the way, but they can control how they play, and that's what's important. And I thought the Kings came out and won this one fairly convincingly, got the 2 points they needed, and moved closer to clinching a playoff spot. We talked about the keys to victory for the Kings going into the game. And so how did they do on the checklist? Well, the first one was pick up the intensity. And I thought the Kings definitely did that. Back at home in front of the home crowd, it was an early start, which was a little off-putting, I guess. So maybe a later arriving crowd, but it still seemed like the Kings were definitely there from the opening faceoff. They had that intensity they're going to need for the rest of this stretch and into the playoffs. The second key was take the play to Seattle. I thought they definitely did that. I thought the Kings were aggressive while being smart. By the way, did anyone notice Alex Ferrier in this one? He is not known for his physical play, but he had not one, but two big hits in this game. One of them he did get penalized for, although I thought it looked worse than it actually was. And I get the referees have to make these calls in real time. We watched the replay, and I thought his shoulder went into the player's chest, and then it kind of slid up into his chin head area. It looked worse than it really was. But if I'm Jim Hiller or one of the assistant coaches, I make sure after that game, I show the tape to Alex Ferrier of those two hits, and I say, that is what we want. That is great. Good job. Keep that up. If you could bring that physical edge, because he's got good size, but he plays more kind of like a floater, a skilled player than he is a guy that really goes hard to the net. If you can bring that kind of edge, you're gonna get some ice time. And I thought that was a really great job by Alex Ferrier of showing he wants to get a little bit more ice time. So Kings, I thought, definitely also had a shot mentality in this one. Could have been a bit better, maybe going to the net, getting players to the net, but in the end, I think all around good job of getting the shots that they wanted and keeping Seattle kind of on their heels. And then finally was finish your opportunities. The Kings were very good at finishing their opportunities against Seattle. They had the first power play of the game, a chance to get the lead, which is important for the Kings. They convert on their first power play opportunity. You had Kevin Fiala and Trevor Moore getting breakaway opportunities, and they both finished on those opportunities, putting the puck into the net. That is what you need come playoff time. When you get those opportunities, when you get those grade A scoring chances, when you get a power play opportunity early in the game, convert on those opportunities, and it's going to go a long way in having success. The Kings absolutely did that in the game against Seattle. A lot of players played well for the Kings, but I did want to single out Blake Lizotte. He did have one awesome individual defensive play, dove to knock the puck out of danger, and it led to the Kevin Fiala breakaway goal. That was a great hustle play. That's the kind of thing you need in playoff hockey. As far as the 3 stars of the game, the number 3 star for me is going to be Kevin Fiala with a goal, his 26th, and an assist, his 42nd. He has a total of 69 points now on the season, and we talked about his breakaway goal. Also had a secondary assist on the Kempe power play goal. His 19th power play assist, which is tied with Andrei Kopitar for the team lead, and this was also his 19th multi-point game of the season, tied with Adrian Kempe for the team lead. PL Dubois gets my number 2 star with 3 assists, his 9th multi-point game this season, had the primary assist on Moore's second goal, a nice stop up in the Kraken zone, and then he found Moore skating down the slot. The other primary assist on the Moore third goal was a great effort along the boards, battling for a puck, getting it out, poking it along the boards out of the zone and to Moore. That's definitely the kind of play we like to see from PL Dubois. Some good, hard board play, and nice job for 3 assists for PLD. But, of course, the number 1 star is the guy who had 3 goals, and that is Trevor Moore. Goals 27, 28, and 29, his second career hat trick. First goal was a really nice redirect on a great pass from Matt Roy. Great job by Moore of getting himself in good position in the slot to accept that pass and deflect it in. Second goal was him doing a great job following up his own shot after the initial shot was saved. And the third goal, him finishing on a breakaway in from the blue line. And that had to feel good considering the failed breakaway he had in the previous game against Winnipeg, which could have given the Kings the lead. So great job by Trevor Moore of putting that in the rearview mirror, not carrying that over to the next game, maybe even having that motivate him for the next game, and him scoring on that breakaway opportunity. And at a point this season, I thought it was a foregone conclusion that Trevor Moore would have 30 goals. Obviously, he did go into a bit of a slump, but he is now 1 away from hitting that 30-goal mark, which obviously he's never come close to before. So a career year for Trevor Moore. The Kings are going to need him being hot in the playoffs, going to need that scoring touch. But he's on the verge of hitting that 30-goal mark. That'll be great to see the Thousand Oaks native hit the 30-goal mark, something that I don't think anybody saw coming into the season. Quick quote from LA Kings head coach Jim Hiller, who said after this one, quote, "I thought our guys were composed. They came out and believed in themselves, played hard to a man, and got the result they wanted." End quote. Yeah, pretty short, sweet, and to the point in this one for LA. Not going to get too over the moon over this, because frankly, this is what they should do against this type of an opponent. But in the end, they still have to go out and do it, and they did that. A few positive takeaways, some pluses from the game. I loved that the Kings never changed the way they played, regardless of the score. It was 3-0. They didn't sit back. They didn't, get less aggressive. They still played smart, but they were still playing the same way from the start of the game to the end of the game, and I like that. As a team, I thought the Kings were very active with their sticks defensively. They were a lot of times where they were stick checking Seattle players, sticks in passing lanes, intercepting passes. They were really, really active with their sticks. It was something that really kind of stood out to me. I don't know if it's something that Jim Hiller emphasized or if it just kind of turned out that way. Also, Cam Talbot, solid game in net, made some key plays when key saves when he had to. So those are some of the positives. Negatives for the Kings, not too many. They did give up another power play goal, although I thought the Blake Lizotte double minor was an iffy call. It was definitely not anything careless or reckless, and he got his stick lifted by the Seattle player, which caused it to go up into the Seattle player's face. So that one, I think, was a tough call. I get why the call was made. The player's head snaps back and he gets cut. And, again, these referees have to make these calls real time. But I thought that was a tough one on Blake Lizotte. The one thing I will say, the one thing that stood out to me as a really, really bad play was Matt Roy, who had the great pass on one of the goals. But on that, there was a 4-on-3 shorthanded opportunity for the Kings. And when you've got three players, you have to clear the puck when you get a chance so you can get off the ice. If not, you're going to be completely exhausted, and the likelihood they're going to score is big. And Matt had a great opportunity to clear the puck, didn't do it, sent it along the boards, it was held in, and then that was when Seattle ended up scoring their power play goal. You get those kind of opportunities in a situation like that, you have to clear it 100% of the time. That was the one play that kind of stood out to me as a negative for the Kings, but certainly a lot more positives than negatives, and that's why the Kings were able to get that victory. LA improving to 10-1-1 and 3-0 at home in the first of back-to-back games this season. Now, there's a second part to that story we'll get into in a minute, but the Kings taking care of business on the first of back-to-back. All in all, like I said, solid effort and execution by the Kings. Big 2 points and play the right way, and they snapped that 3-game losing skid. Kings need to keep it going, though, tonight in San Jose. We'll talk about that next year on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it is easy to turn your car into that MVP and bring home the win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? The volume need to be turned down because of all the shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for your everyday needs as a sports fan. They've got all the biggest sports stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel apps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Kings are back in action tonight with their second-to-last road game of the year in San Jose to take on the Sharks. While San Jose is one of the worst teams in the NHL, the Kings have not fared well this season in the back half, in the second of back-to-back games. Their record in those games is 3-6-2. In the second of back-to-back games that are on the road, like tonight, the Kings are 1-5. If I'm Jim Hiller, I make sure my team knows those numbers if they don't already, and I challenge them to make sure that does not happen tonight. Again, the Kings have not been good in the second of back-to-back games this year. They need to make that correction tonight. Now, this is the final of 4 matchups between the Kings and the Sharks. LA won the first matchup 4-1 on December 19th. Anze Kopitar, Trevor Moore, Alex Ferrier, and Trevor Lewis had goals, and David Rittich allowed 1 goal on 16 shots in the win. Kings won the next matchup 5-1. That was on December 27th. Adrian Kempe had 2 goals. Kevin Fiala, Pierre Dubois, and Trevor Lewis scoring as well. And David Rittich allowed 1 goal on 25 shots in the win. However, the Kings did lose the last meeting That was January the 22nd in LA, 4-3 in a shootout. Drew Doughty would tie it up in the final minutes to force overtime, then the shootout. Kings also got goals from Trevor Moore and Quentin Byfield. David Rittich allowed 3 goals on 27 shots in taking the loss. Kings come into tonight's game with a record of 39, 25, and 11. 4th place in the Pacific Division, 8th place in the Western Conference, and 14th in the NHL with 89 points. Kings are 21, 14, and 4 on the road this season, coming off that 5-2 win over the Kraken last night. The Sharks are 17, 49, and 9. They are in last place in the Pacific Division, 8th, 16th place in the Western Conference, that is last, and 32nd in the NHL with 42 points, the fewest points in the entire league. Sharks are 10, 22, and 4 at home this season, coming off a 4-2 home loss to the Kraken on Monday. Kings are 16th in the NHL in goals per game at 3.09. The Sharks are 31st, second to last. Only Chicago is worse. They're scoring 2.22 goals per game. LA is tied with the Carolina Hurricanes for 3rd in the NHL in goals allowed per game at 2.59. San Jose, 32nd in the league, dead last. They're allowing 3.96 goals per game, almost 4 goals per game. Kings are still 11th in the league on the power play, 22.5%. Sharks are 18th in the NHL with a man advantage at 20.9%. Kings are 2nd in the NHL to the Carolina Hurricanes on the penalty kill at 84.4%. San Jose 28th on the PK, 75.2%. Individually, the Kings have 3 players with 60-plus points or more, 4 players with 20 or more goals. Kevin Fiala has grabbed the points lead right now for the Kings. He's got 68, 1 more than Adrian Kempe, 2 more than Andrei Kopitar. Trevor Moore leads the team in goals now with 29. Kopitar and Fiala each have 26 goals on the season. If you haven't paid attention to the Sharks, and honestly, why would you? Gone are familiar players like Tomas Hertl and Timo Meier, sold off in San Jose's rebuild. The Sharks have just 1 player with 50 or more points. That's Mikael Granlund. He's got 51. And the Sharks only have 1 player with 20 or more goals. That's Fabian Zetterlund. He's got 21. As for the 2 netminders in this one, the Kings are going to go with David Rittich in the second of back-to-back games. Cam Talbot went last night, Rittich tonight. If you paid attention earlier, you know that David Rittich has played a lot against the Sharks this season. He checks in overall on the year 11, 6-3, 2.26 goals against average, 918 save percentage with 3 shutouts. This will be Big Save Dave's 4th start against San Jose this season. In his previous 3 games, he's allowed a total of 5 goals in 3 games on 68 shots against. The Sharks are going to go with Mackenzie Blackwood in net. He checks in with a record of 10, 22, and 3, 3.41 goals against average, a 900 save percentage. Last start for him was Monday against the Kraken. He allowed 3 goals on 31 shots in the loss. He only has 1 win in his last 7 starts. That was a 4-0 shutout of the Blues last Saturday. He has not faced the Kings this season. As far as the lineup for the Kings tonight, Philip Deneau is not going to play. So I would expect the Kings will stick with the same lineup they had against Seattle. Now, we'll see about that. Maybe Akil Thomas draws into the lineup on the 4th line. Maybe he goes in for Arthur Kaliev. We'll have to wait and see on that. But no Philip Deneau once again. So the Kings will have to go without their normal second-line center. Bottom line for LA, play the way you played last night, tonight, and things will take care of themselves. It's that simple. I keep saying it. It's not about who you're playing. It's about how you're playing. The fact that the Sharks are not good, frankly, is irrelevant. It's about doing what you do as the LA Kings. Got 2 points there for the taking. Go out, play the right way, play the way you did the night before. And like I said, that will take care of itself. So the Kings gain some ground and get some breathing room as well. Details on the standings and the playoff picture next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from another retirement account with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on a 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with that 3% match. The offer is good through April the 30th. Get started Robinhood.com/boost, BOOST. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. The LA Kings take on the San Jose Sharks, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time tonight. Catch every moment of the hometown broadcast of your LA Kings with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search LA Kings. Well, let's check the standings in the Pacific Division and the Western Conference playoff race coming out of last night's action. The Vancouver Canucks got by the Arizona Coyotes last night by a score of 2-1. The Oilers were shut out by the Stars last night, 5-0, and obviously the Kings picking up a win over the Kraken. So where do the standings all fall out after those results? Well, Vancouver has 102 points in first place in the Pacific. Edmonton, second place, remaining at 95 points. So they're 7 points back of Vancouver. Vegas did not play, so they're still in third place with 92 points. Nashville also did not play. They've got 90 points, the number one wild card. The Kings obviously gained ground on both Vegas and Nashville. 89 points now for LA. So they're 1 point back of the Predators for the number one wild card, and they are 3 points back of Vegas for third place in the Pacific. St. Louis also did not play last night. They've got 84 points, so the Kings now a 5-point lead on the Blues for that final wildcard spot in the West. So again, the Kings 3 points back of Vegas for third in the Pacific, 5 points up on St. Louis for the final wildcard spot in the West. If the playoffs started today, the Kings would face the Dallas Stars in the first round. Now, the Stars have a 5-point lead now on Colorado with their big win over Edmonton. So if LA finishes in that second wildcard spot, then it looks like they're going to face the Stars. Now, Nashville, again, just a 1-point lead on the Kings for the number one wildcard spot. If the Kings can catch Nashville, they would face the number 2 team in the West. And right now, that's Vancouver, who's 3 points back of Dallas for that top spot in the Western Conference. So games of interest coming up tonight. There's a big one. Blues are playing at the Predators. Obviously, St. Louis desperate to gain ground on the Kings or whoever gets that second wildcard spot. Now, if St. Louis wins in regulation and the Kings win in regulation, LA would reclaim that number one wildcard spot in the West. And I've said it all along, I think the Kings match up very favorably against the Vancouver Canucks. If the Kings can get the job done tonight, and again, if the Blues can beat the Predators, then the Kings would be in that number one wildcard spot, and they would face Vancouver as it would stand tomorrow in the standings in the first round of the playoffs. So there is certainly that for the Kings. So another reason for them to take care of business tonight against the San Jose Sharks. Hey, before I say goodbye for today, I did want to give a shout out to a friend of the show and a friend of mine. He's a big Kings fan and one of my beer league teammates. His name is Chuck Anderson. He unfortunately lost his mom the other day, and definitely wanted to send out my condolences to him and his family. And I know that the Kings win last night. I was texting with him, brought him a little bit of joy. So hopefully the Kings can win a lot more games going forward and can help Chuck to feel a little bit better. But shout out to big Kings fan Chuck Anderson. For you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on Friday, we will recap the Kings-Sharks game. We'll preview Saturday's game against the Canucks and have another Kings fan feedback show. You want to get in on that? All you have to do is send an email to lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. And as always, we'd love for you to leave your comments in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube. It helps the algorithm, helps the show to be seen. So we greatly appreciate that. And we would love for you to stay interactive with us on social media. You can follow us on X, Twitter, and Instagram at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you as always for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you on Friday. And as always, go Kings go.